Technical writer Marcia Baird is suing 35-year-old truck driver Stephen Schwartz for an accident involving his van. Stephen says his vehicle had been stolen and he shouldn't have to pay.
Order. All rise. Yes, case number 584 on the calendar in the matter of Baird versus Schwartz. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Baird, your car was parked in your driveway?
No, in front of my house.
And you were awakened by a crash?
Yes. The way I see this whole thing...
No, just pay attention to what
Yes.
I say. You were awakened by a crash, you looked outside, you saw that another car had, a van or something, had hit your car.
A white van had crashed into my truck.
And as it turns out, that white van had been stolen.
Yes.
And that was your car.
Yes.
And that was stolen from in front of your house.
Yes, in my driveway.
In your driveway. And had it been stolen that night?
At 6 o'clock in the morning.
And this crash occurred at what time?
6 o'clock in the morning, so it had to have been stolen before then.
So within a relatively brief period
10
of time.
minutes.
10 minutes. And your car was severely damaged. You had
5,000.
insurance that paid for the damage with the exception of your deductible, which is $1,000. And you believe that the defendant, whose car had been stolen from his driveway, is responsible for paying your $1,000 deductible.
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay, that's what this case is about. Now, you got it?
I got it.
Good. Now, you want to tell me why?
Mr. Schwartz, a total stranger to me, left his keys in his van and went to bed at night. This is an irresponsible act. I would never leave my keys in my car and go to bed at night. Mr. Schwartz and I also have the same insurance company, and attached to my insurance policy, there's a little letter that says, in order to avoid loss or theft, here are some tips, things you can do to prevent that. And one of the things is do not leave your keys in your car. I believe his negligence caused me, a total stranger, to be out $1,000. And I brought my witness because she helped Mr. Schwartz search the neighborhood for his keys. He had thought that they took the keys when they left the van. They couldn't drive away because the van was still attached to my truck.
Just a second. When the police came to the scene, were their keys recovered from the van?
No.
Okay. When the van hit your car, did the thieves get out of the van?
My neighbor, Kathy, saw the whole thing, and she can explain what she
Okay.
saw.
Kathy, what's your last name?
McNamee.
Did you actually see the van hit the car?
Yes.
And what did you see next?
Well, I was in my home, and it was the morning of February the 18th, and it was approximately 6:10 in the morning. I was looking out the window and saw a van coming slowly up the street. Shortly after that, it had hit Marcia's truck, and immediately after it hit the truck, both the passenger and the driver's door opened up, and the criminals bailed out and took off running. And at that time, I called the police, and shortly after there, they arrived on the scene.
Now, Ms. Baird said something about you searching with the defendant for keys.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
When Mr. Schwartz arrived on the scene, he was concerned. He had said to me that there were house keys on the keychain, and I had told him that I had seen the criminals bail out of the van and run, and I could walk off, as far as I could see the path that they ran, and I walked off with him and looked for the keys, but we were unsuccessful in finding them.
Okay. Now I'll hear you. You parked your car when?
The evening before I got home, and
At what time, Mr. Schwartz?
7 or 8, my daughter, who's 18 months old, was getting ill at the time in the back seat. So I ran around the vehicle to get her out because she was vomiting, and ran her into the house. And I'm not sure if I left them in the ignition or when I unbuckled her from the seat because she was in a child seat. And then after taking care of her, I forgot to go back out and get the keys because it wasn't on my mind. Then the next thing I know, I got a call at 6:15 that my vehicle had been in an accident.
How did you get into the house without your keys?
Garage door.
Okay.
Your Honor, there's something he
Just a
said
minute,
that...
just wait a second. He's not finished yet. Don't interrupt him. Go ahead.
Okay, and the police came to my house and they said my vehicle was in an accident. I immediately got dressed, went to the accident scene, met them. I did search for my keys there. I know she's a victim, but I think there's 2 victims here. I did not ask these people to steal my vehicle. If someone wants to steal something, they're going to get it no matter what. I too lost big time in this because they totaled my van. The insurance company didn't pay for it because they said I did not give them permission to drive the van, whatever that meant. And that's why they didn't pay her deductible. And I got a whopping $25 for the van after it was released from the impound. And I have pictures that it was a nice vehicle.
Your Honor, there's something he said that isn't the same as what he told me when he came down to look at the vehicles. He told me that he left his keys in the van because he lives on the top of a hill, you know, and not next to a bunch of houses or right on the street, and that he thought that nobody would come up the drive. So it isn't like, I never heard about a vomiting daughter. It was more like, oh, I do this. This isn't the first time I've done this. I do it because I sit on the top of a hill and I don't think anybody will come up.
Ms. Baird, when I read your papers, I was trying to think of an analogy for you. While it's always smarter to take your keys out of your car and lock your car, I mean, that's a smart thing to do. There are some people who leave their doors open in their car because they would prefer that if somebody wanted to get into their car, they not break a window. They just are able to open the door. I mean, I've heard that rationale, especially people who have convertibles. They say, they want to get into my car to steal something that's in the car. I would rather have them not slash the convertible top. I'd rather them just be able to open the door.
But that
it's
wasn't...
usually smarter, however, smarter, not the law, to take your keys from your vehicle, right?
His rationale was not what you just said, though. I understand that rationale.
No, no.
People saying, I don't want him to break in, so...
Just a second. No, I'm getting
All right.
someplace with
All
you.
right.
Let us say you live in an area where you don't lock your house. And most people, when they go to bed, go in, lock the door because they want to be protected as best they can when they're in the house. But there are some people who live in either a rural area or live in an area that's relatively crime-free that say, I'm going to leave my front door open. Let's say a burglar comes into your house, takes a bunch of things, and among the things that the burglar takes is a large kitchen knife. And as they're coming out, one of the neighbors comes across and says, what are you doing? And they take the kitchen knife and they stab them. Are you responsible because you left your door open? Are you responsible because you left your door open? But for the fact that you left your door open, this burglar would not have gone into your house, taken the kitchen knife, and had a vehicle, a weapon to cause you injury.
I'm not sure that's a fair analogy because you're talking about personal injury versus monetary damage to a vehicle.
No, you're talking about the same theory. You're talking about somebody that hasn't done anything illegal. If he had done something illegal, that would be a different story.
It's illegal.
He did something that was perhaps imprudent, the same kind of imprudence that one would think you would be guilty of if you leave your house open. But do you think that the victim of that stabbing could turn around and sue the homeowner? But for the homeowner's action and leaving his door open, which is really your theory, but for Mr. Schwartz's action in leaving his keys in the car, the thieves might not have taken his car, because certainly if they're car thieves, they know how to hotwire a car. If that's his car they wanted, and if it was deserted area, they might have hotwired his car. But for the fact that the front door is open, burglar wouldn't have gone inside? Probably not. Would have picked a lock. But your theory is, but for his negligent action, the thieves would not have had the vehicle to cause you property injury. But the law says that there is an intervening act, Ms. Baird.
I personally would never leave my keys in my car and go to bed at night, nor would I leave my door open when I went to bed at night.
Absolutely right. But the theory of your case is, but for his actions, the property injury would not have happened. But the intervening criminal act over which he has no control, I believe, negates any possibility for you to recover your $1,000 deductible.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
We do not know that these criminals were professional car thieves that know how to hotwire a car. They never arrested these people. They couldn't get good fingerprints. We don't know who they were.
Absolutely
It could have been kids who have no knowledge of how to hotwire a car.
You're absolutely right.
And were looking for a car with keys in it and found one. And that's the only reason they were able to take that car and come down and crash into my truck and cause me, a total stranger, to be out $1,000, which I cannot afford. I'm behind on my car payments because I can't afford that $1,000.
I understand that. But that does not mean that both of you are not victims of a crime. He may have exposed himself by allowing his keys to be in the car, but I might add that his keys were not found in the ignition, and it really is very odd to me, quite frankly, that once this crash took place, that the people who took the car stopped even a second to turn off the engine, pull out the keys before they ran out. I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me. There were certainly no keys found in the ignition. So what I'm telling you, Ms. Baird, is that's why they have funds for victims of crime. You were a crime victim. He was a crime victim. It wasn't smart that he left his keys in the car, but we honestly don't even know whether the fact that he left the keys in the car aided and abetted these car thieves.
Is there another avenue for a victim to go through to recover from their loss?
Well, there are crime victims' compensation boards to compensate monetarily victims of crime who suffered a financial loss. Might you use that as a way of getting back your $1,000? Absolutely. But I just want to take a quick look at the pictures of the cars before I send you on your way.
Hey, I don't have pictures.
They totaled your van?
Yes.
Looks perfectly fine to me. Okay, the Crime Victims Compensation Board is a possibility, Miss Baird. Mr. Schwartz is not. That's all cases dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That's how I thought it would come out.
I'm totally surprised. I thought she would rule in my favor.
I was the victim too.
He committed an act. He deserves what he gets. I did nothing.
And now the next case.
All parties on Woodall versus Rogers. Step forward, please.
20-year-old student service advisor Kayla Woodall is suing her former roommate, Sarah Rogers, for her share of an apartment lease and utility bills.
You two young ladies were friends, and you decided it was time to leave your parents' home and strike out on your own, so you rented an apartment together.
Yes,
How old are you?
20.
And you?
20.
How long had you been friends?
4 years, give or take.
And when did you move in?
July 5th, 2000.
Okay, and was it a year lease?
Yes.
And then there was trouble in paradise.
Yes.
Things didn't work out. Miss Rogers moved out.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kayla Woodall says former roommate Sarah Rogers owes for half an apartment lease. Sarah says she's already forfeited her share of the security deposit.
Okay. The thrust of your lawsuit is you wanted her to be responsible for the remainder of the lease after she moved out.
Correct.
When did she move out?
January 15th.
All right, so tell me under what circumstances she moved out.
Her and I had discussed a lot of times in a 6-month period about her paying rent and bills late and me having to track her down and find her when the due dates came about. So there'd been maybe 2 or 3 discussions about one of us needing to either move out or get on the ball with what was going on. We didn't really ever set a date or a time or a place on when this was going to happen. There was a lot of delaying, and I came home from work one day and she had moved all of her belongings out of the house.
Well, what happened in the couple of days before that?
She said that her and her witness actually were looking for a place to live, and that, hopefully something would be going through with it soon.
Okay, what did you say to her?
I said, well, if that's what you're going to do, that's fine. You do have a lease here, but it doesn't seem like you're really paying the bills like you should be, and if you're not going to be able to pay them, you're not going to do me much use. It's like dead weight. So I either need you to pay them or...
Move.
Right.
So that's what you did?
That's what she did.
Go ahead.
Well, I did move out on January 13th after we had made a mutual agreement that I would move out.
Tell me about that agreement.
We agreed that I would move out on the 15th because we were not getting along. I was paying my bills. They were not on time most of the time, but they were paid. Basically, the agreement was that I was going to be moving out on the 15th. I moved out 2 days before. I paid the whole month's rent for the month of January.
Did you both put down security deposit on the apartment?
Yes.
How much?
Mine was, I think, $450.
Did you get that back?
No.
Okay,
I have
so-
forfeited my security deposit in order to be gone from the apartment.
What do you mean you forfeited it? Who did you forfeit it with? Her or the landlord?
The property management.
Did you sign off with the property manager?
I wrote them a letter when I moved out saying that they could keep my security and I was not going to be living at the address anymore.
Well, they don't get to keep your security. The security, if the apartment's in good condition, is going to go back to the people who leased the apartment. In that case, you will get her portion of the security deposit back.
It was $400 deposit, $200 from each of us.
So you didn't put down $450, you put down $200?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. Did your boyfriend move into the apartment?
He is kind of living there. We are not really trying to live together.
Miss Woodall.
I haven't had many options of people to move in with me.
Miss Woodall?
Yes.
When did your boyfriend bring his toothbrush after the 15th of January?
About a half a month ago, he's moved in, but has not taken full financial responsibility.
That's your problem.
That may be.
Good. So what are we doing here? I believe that there was an agreement that she move out, because even according to you, Miss Woodall, you said, look, one of us has to move. She said, she'll move out. Clearly, there was an agreement that she moved out.
It wasn't really that simple. In order for us to get this apartment, the 1-year lease, one of our parents had to co-sign. My father opted to do so. So it was only natural for her to move out versus me. This was not something I wanted. I did not want her to move out.
Fine, so it was natural for her to move out if you weren't getting along rather than you, because your father was the guarantor on the lease.
Right.
Well, why don't you have your father have a little discussion with your boyfriend?
Well, because it's not his responsibility.
No, it's yours. It's yours.
You're right.
If you moved in a boyfriend who's not paying his fair share, instead of looking for another roommate who might pay their fair share, that's not her fault.
I didn't say I moved him in. He has stayed even when she was living there. You know, he sleeps
You just
over
told me
and
he
things like
moved
that.
in. You just told me 2 seconds ago, Miss Woodall, that
I
he
meant
moved
for
in,
the
but he did.
duration of the time since she's moved out.
You just told me he moved in, but he hasn't taken on the financial responsibility. Those were your exact words.
Right.
That's not her fault. That's your fault.
I'm not trying to blame her for that.
So,
I'm looking for compensation. She's left me in a financial hardship.
I understand your financial hardship. Your financial hardship would be ameliorated if you found yourself a roommate who would pay half of the rent. She's not going to pay half the rent. Forget that. What other bills does she owe you?
I have PG&E and SMUD here.
How much do all those bills total?
$280. It may be $230. I'm doing the math in my head.
Just about the same amount as her security deposit.
Yes, it's close to.
Perfect. So make sure you and your boyfriend keep the apartment in good shape so that when you move out, you're going to keep the security deposit, her half.
Okay.
Perfect. Case is over. Goodbye.
Parties are excused.
83-year-old electrician Alan Falk is suing his ex-fiancée, 49-year-old casino floor employee Lori Price Bars, for the return of an engagement ring and for the money to get a divorce.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 42 on the calendar in the matter of Falk versus Price Bars. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Falk, you and the defendant lived together for 5 years, became engaged. That relationship terminated. You want your engagement ring back.
Yes, ma'am.
You want money that you claim to have loaned her so that she could obtain an attorney to get a divorce. And you want your dog back.
Well, that would be nice, yes.
Listen, let's eliminate what you really don't want. You want the dog or not?
I'm going to let her have the dog.
Perfect. See how easily we can pare down a lawsuit. Okay. So you want your ring back and your money back.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that the ring, while it was originally an engagement ring, turned out not to be an engagement ring. Anyway, let's get to it. When did you start to live together?
About late November 1995.
And when did the relationship terminate?
November of 2000.
When did you purchase this engagement ring?
In 1996, Your Honor. 11/19 of 96. Original price on it was $3,570. I have all receipts, etc. here for you. Could I submit all this
Yeah,
at
I'll
this
take
time? It's all the evidences, photographs, everything to back any claim I'm going to be making, Your Honor.
Okay. Now tell me about the loan for the lawyer.
Well, Miss Price and I got together, and she decided, well, she had told me that she left her ex-husband. She wanted to divorce him. She wanted to get together with me. I said, fine. I'll loan you the money for a lawyer. Just pay me back. Well, I never got paid back.
When did you loan her the money for the lawyer?
The receipt is in there. I believe it was in 1996 and 97. It would be right here. The original charge was made on 12/18 of 97.
And you continued to live together, sir, for 3 years after that.
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you give her for the lawyer?
The total amount ended up being $1,030, including finance charges, et cetera, et cetera.
What was the amount without the finance charges?
$835, Your Honor.
And for the time that you lived together, Mr. Falk, the 3 years that you lived together after that, how many times did you bring up this $835 that you
We
loaned
fought
her?
about it a bunch of times.
That's a lot.
Tell me about that.
Well, I just told her it wasn't fair. I'm paying all the bills here. She wouldn't contribute to anything for the house, for any of the bills, for anything that she was, was getting. She wouldn't contribute to anything. I says, look, you've got to pay your own way for this stuff. Your ex-husband should have paid for his own divorce. That was between you and him. Why did I have to pay for it? I agreed to
So
loan
you
you
fought
the money.
over money. No, Mr. Falk, you're not following me, sir. You fought over money, but not in the 3 years, over specifically.
Yes, we
this
fought
800
specifically over that.
When was she
several times.
supposed to pay you back this $835?
She said she'd start paying me back every week out of her check, and I've yet to see anything for it.
So, Mr. Falk, 3 years went by, is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me ask you this question. Your last name is now Bars?
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
married?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where's the engagement ring?
Actually,
Actually is
Okay.
not an answer. I want to know where the engagement ring is now.
I do not know. It could be in storage. He packed my stuff when I moved out. I'm missing 2 rings. I'm assuming they're in the storage box, which I can't get to because our place is very small. All my clothes, everything is in storage.
I don't believe you. Let me explain
Okay.
why. I don't believe you. Because if you are being sued for the return of a piece of property, then you go to the storage unit and you look for boxes. Now, I have moved several times. I put books in storage. I put pictures in storage. I put blankets in storage. I don't put jewelry in storage. However, if you believed that this ring was actually in storage and you wanted to give it back to him,
No, I didn't.
well, that's a different story.
Yes.
That's a different story. Now, you explain why you don't believe you have to return it to him, because I don't believe that you don't know where it is in storage.
Okay.
All right, good.
Okay, the ring, like he said, was purchased in November. I didn't know he got it. It was presented to me Christmas morning as a Christmas gift. We had decided to use that as an engagement ring. Subsequently, that was...
What do you mean you had decided to use it as an engagement ring? What did the ring look like?
It's a gold band with paved diamonds. It's very pretty. And subsequently, we had decided not to get married. And the ring was never asked for back to be returned. I always had it. I was kicked out once. He asked for it back. I gave it to him. He gave it back to me. At this point, I didn't consider it. It was just a pretty ring, not an engagement ring.
You met someone else, according to what I've read from your answer. You met someone else at your job.
Yes.
And that's the reason that your relationship with Mr. Falk terminated.
Mainly, yes.
And you subsequently married. I assume this is your husband.
Yes, it is.
Then the right thing to do is to return this ring that he purchased and that you had originally determined was an engagement ring. That's the right thing to do.
Okay, Your Honor, the reason that I was not going to, had a phone call in which my husband was a witness. He talked to him from Mr. Falk calling me, telling me if I would give him one of the dogs, he would drop the whole thing. If I would not give up one of the dogs, that this was just the beginning. That's word for word what he said, and my husband heard it.
Did you give him back one of the dogs?
No, they're both my dogs.
Okay.
No, not.
So let us assume that he said that to you, either the ring or the dog. Now, if you could have established that to my satisfaction and you did, in fact, give him back the dog, well, then that was a quid pro quo.
Yeah.
He would have accepted it. If I...
Betul nggak?